Good morning. My name is Steve. Great. I am the product lead for podcasts. I can honestly say you're not going to see a ton of really exciting things on these slides, so apologies in advance for that. So thank you all for coming out. Really excited to talk a little bit about podcasting, to talk about YouTube and the work that we're doing. But if there's one thing I want to sort of like set the stage for and really encourage you all to think about, particularly in the context of this weekend, where podcast movement is really having its first showcase here at South by Southwest, is what does the next billion users of podcasting look like? Where's podcasting going? I think I've worked in and around product for podcasts for the better part of 10 years now. And over the past 10 years, we've seen this tremendous growth and explosion and change in terms of what a podcast is, how podcasts are consumed, where people get their podcasts. And as I sort of spin that forward, what does the next few years look like? And I think podcasting will get younger, will get more international. The lines between audio and video will continue to blur, and we will continue to drive more discovery of podcasts. In terms of like, people ask me all the time, what do you do at YouTube? And like, what is a product management role? And really what I think about is how do we drive defining and redefining what a podcast is, really in response to the creator community and what many of you in this room do in terms of creativity, but also in terms of audiences and how audiences expect to engage with this type of content. I'm really excited to work on this at YouTube. This is YouTube's mission. Our mission is to give everyone a voice and show them the world. Podcasting doesn't have an official mission statement, but you could actually argue that this is also podcasting's mission statement, which is, we just had Tom talking about rural podcasting in Texas. What is a better example of giving everyone a voice and showing them the world? Anyone can spin up a podcast. Anyone can be on YouTube. And this is really at the heart of everything we do here at YouTube. Sort of our subtext to this is we believe everyone deserves to have a voice and that the world is a better place when we listen and we build communities through our stories. Again, like this is the YouTube mission statement. And when people ask me like, why has podcasting taken off on YouTube? In some ways, I think podcasting has really taken off on YouTube because YouTube's DNA is deeply aligned with the podcasting industry and what podcasters have been looking for as well. So I'm going to share some data. If you've seen our trends report, you've probably seen a version of this. Last year was YouTube's 20th birthday. Coincidentally, last year was podcasting's 20th birthday as well. And this is from the YouTube trends report. And it is a section on like, what are people watching? And when you look at what people are watching on YouTube, two things really stand out. And I think these are relevant for podcasters. One, the videos we watch, they're getting shorter. Probably unsurprisingly, we have all seen TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts. And so unsurprisingly, the content people are watching on YouTube are getting shorter. But relevant to podcasting, what we see on YouTube is videos that are over an hour long. Those are also exploding in terms of watch time. And I think what this speaks to is shorts can be this incredible mechanism to engage and sort of catch attention. But people are still fundamentally people, and we fundamentally are still looking for deep connection. And so the 60-minute videos and people looking to really connect with their favorite podcasters or their favorite creators on YouTube, it really resonates in the 60-minute category. And so that's like the trend one that I would like you all to take away. The second trend is not everyone needs to be Mr. Beast. Oftentimes the question we get asked is, well, how do I get to 100 million views on YouTube? And in reality, when you look at consumption on YouTube, videos with under 100,000 views, again, drive the preponderance of watch time. And this really speaks to the power of speaking to your audience. Again, Tom talked about, the rural Texas listener, and he speaks to a very particular community. And I think the most effective podcasters and creators on YouTube. Sorry, I didn't realize this was animated. It like threw me off guard. So the most effective creators on YouTube also speak to a particular audience. And so, as you're a podcaster or as you think about YouTube, you really should be thinking about who is the audience you're speaking to and why are they tuning into your program? And, sort of like to spin that forward as we think about the next billion users, how do we think about the new creators that will come, the new podcasters that will come, talking to younger audiences, talking to more international audiences? And YouTube is really the place where you can reach users all around the world, and it's available to creators all around the world as well. And then you've probably seen some version of this data. This is from Coleman Insights. I see Jay here. And what we see is users flow between audio and video. And in some ways, the distinction between audio and video is increasingly less important. I think I would come to an event like this a few years ago. A few years ago, people would ask, well, why are you here? If it's on YouTube, it's not a podcast. And then a couple of years ago, it was like, oh, I guess it could be a podcast, but, it's a different kind of thing. It's a video podcast. And what we see, if you follow the user and you follow the creator, in some ways, the distinction between audio and video is increasingly less important. And it's less important because users are engaging with video in the times and places where video makes sense. If I sit down in front of my television, the largest screen in my home, I will be potentially watching that podcast. When I get in my car, sadly, I have a long commute, and I have lots of time to listen to all my favorite podcasts. Obviously, I will be listening. And so what we see in this data is most people are consuming both. And the trends, particularly with younger users, is increasingly towards video. And so I think you see this across the industry as well, not only at YouTube, but other places where audio and video are really meeting the needs of users in the podcasting space. And so in terms of YouTube, I think we shared the stat a year ago at this point. We have over 1 billion monthly users. YouTube is the place where podcast listeners are. The way that I describe it is if you're on the internet, you're probably on YouTube. And so if you want to reach users really everywhere, and I know Tom, sorry to keep calling Tom out, but I also think of YouTube as also a lifeline for these rural communities as well. And so, but 1 billion monthly users and over 100 million hours a day of podcast content is consumed on the platform. So what's next? This is probably why you're all here. And I wish I had a bunch of super fancy slides and I could show you all the top secret things we're doing. We're not actually doing a ton of top secret stuff. Yeah, we're doing stuff I can't really show, but a lot of what our product team is really focused on is how do we continue to improve the experience of consuming podcasts on YouTube? And I'm going to talk about a few different areas. So first, I'll talk about the algorithm, because anytime somebody talks about YouTube, they ask about the algorithm and, how's the algorithm going to push my content? And what I would say is you should not be thinking about the algorithm as pushing your content to reach audiences. The way the algorithm actually works is we take into account the user, and there are billions of videos on YouTube. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to show the user the video that is most relevant to them. And that applies in podcasting as well. On the podcasting side, we are doing a number of different things that are very specific to how podcasts are consumed. Podcasts they can be daily, they can be weekly, but they are oftentimes serialized. And so if you listen to an episode 2 days ago and there's a new episode that's out for you, we want to ensure that we are recommending that next episode to your audience. It's a really important piece of what we do. Podcasts also, by their nature, are oftentimes long form. I talked about how 60-minute video consumption is growing. One of the things that we can do on the YouTube side is make sure that it's really easy for you to get back into that podcast that you were listening to that you might not have completed. And so we are doing a number of sort of like algorithm type efforts in terms of both nomination. When do we sort of like nominate a video and recommend it to a user, but also in terms of ranking. And then the other part related to long form consumption is particularly on YouTube, people are consuming their podcasts across a variety of contexts. I touched on Living Room earlier, and I'll actually come back to Living Room. We are increasingly seeing the largest screen in a user's home, which is oftentimes also connected to your best speakers in your home, as a place increasingly where people are consuming their favorite podcasts. But the user also transitions. They transition to their phone, they transition to their car. And so, in addition to sort of like the recommendations piece, we also want to take into account the user's context and recommend the right podcast for the user in the right moment and in that right context. So that's some of the things that we're invested in. I'm going to talk, actually, I do have slides on some of the more specific creator-facing tools that we have been launching as well. But, back to the Living Room piece, if you're a video podcaster in particular, but also even if you're an audio podcaster, you should be thinking about how your users engage with your content on these Living Room devices. Consumption on Living Room devices continues to grow. In October of 2024, we released a stat that there was 400 million hours of consumption on Living Room devices. A year later, it was 700 million hours, and we continue to see growth of podcast consumption. We continue to see growth of YouTube consumption on the largest screen in people's homes. And so we continue to invest in this. We launched shows last year to really highlight podcast content, to shine alongside traditional linear content. And we will continue to invest in improving the Living Room experience for our users. So I'm going to change directions a little bit. I'm going to talk about some of the things that we are doing for creators. Some of these efforts were announced last year at Madon. Madon is a large event that YouTube hosts in New York, and a lot of it is really geared towards the creator community. Part of what I think about my job is, what are the things that we're building kind of for creators across YouTube that would disproportionately benefit podcasters and we think are really valuable for podcasters. Last year, we launched collabs, and collabs, for those of you who don't know, are a way to, if you're interviewing somebody, to basically share the video. And the video will show up on your channel, the video will show up on their channel, their audience will get the notification as well as your audience. Many podcasts and many podcasters are interviewing and talking to other creators or other podcasters, and we've seen that this is really taken off, both in the podcast community but also for creators across the board. If you're not doing this, you should be doing this. We also announced A/B testing. So on video platforms in particular, and YouTube in particular, your thumbnails really matter. Your titles really matter. If you're not thinking about your thumbnails and your titles and you're just using your show art from your podcast, and it's the same art for every single episode, you really should be thinking first, update your thumbnails and titles. And then secondly, if you're like, I'm not quite sure what I should be doing here, and I'm not quite sure what's going to be most effective to reach my audience, we allow you to A/B test. You can A/B test your thumbnails, you can A/B test titles, and you can actually see on the platform what is going to work best for you. And this is all available in YouTube Studio. If you're a podcaster on YouTube, you really should be trying to see where this fits into your workflow. And then, it wouldn't be a Google talk, it wouldn't be a YouTube talk if we didn't talk about agentic experiences and we didn't talk about AI. This is Ask Podcasts. Again, this is in YouTube Studio. You can, rather than sort of dig through the analytics, which there's a ton of data and a ton of analytics to you in YouTube Studio, you can ask plain text questions. So tell me which podcast did best for me in the last 6 months. And you can actually have a conversation with Studio, leveraging your data to get insights about what performs well for you on the platform. We're really excited for Ask Studio to be rolling out. And related to that, we're also exploring around this idea of inspiration. So in addition to understanding your own content and how it's performing on the platform, maybe you want to sort of like have an ideation partner. And within YouTube Studio, you can have an ideation partner now. We call this inspiration. And you can kind of see what's happening on the platform and generate different ideas on how you might want to tailor your videos and your podcasts. Specific to podcasts, I touched on shorts earlier and how shorts continue to grow. One of the things in particular we hear from independent podcasters is they recognize, particularly in video contexts, that full episodes, they might ask for an hour and 15 minutes of your time. And so we want to make it easier for creators to be able to create clips and shorts from their full podcast episode. Podcasters and creators spend a lot of time really crafting their podcast. And then you realize that your work has just begun. And your work has just begun because now you need to promote that episode. And you potentially want to create a short so that you can, highlight the creator that's on your channel or highlight that particular snippet of the video that was really interesting to your audience and make that available in short so that you can kind of reach new audiences. And so in YouTube Studio, in the editor tool, we are using Gemini to suggest, here are logical clips from your full episode. And then we have shorts coming actually very soon. So we'll give you a sneak peek of that, but you'll be able to do that for shorts as well. And so we're really excited to put this into the hands of creators because not every podcaster or creator has a staff of people who can do this work for them. And so what we want to do is we want to, leverage technology where it makes sense. And in particular, when we think about like AI tools, how can AI tools really augment you as a creator and help you accomplish more? And this is an example of that. And we're excited to see this in the hands of users. And then we also announced dynamic brand segments. I think this got a lot of attention last year at Maidon, and I think there were a lot of questions, like when is it actually coming? So what I can say is we are in experimentation. We're really excited about bringing the ability to have sponsorship segments stitched into your videos and have them change dynamically. This will tie in with ads measurement. So you will get all of the measurement and capabilities that you're used to with YouTube ads, but you'll be able to also apply that and use that in the context of the sponsorships that live on your video. And then yesterday, we announced a new set of ads genres for ads buyers. And so if you're a podcast ad buyer and you want to buy sports on YouTube or society and culture or news, we're making it easier for you to be able to buy against kind of these top categories and genres. And then maybe like intuitively, at least to me, but Cantor ran a study measuring the effectiveness of video versus audio ads. And unsurprisingly, video ads outperform audio ads or audio only ads in terms of really brand awareness, recall, brand favorability, consideration intent, purchase intent, and brand equity. And all of those things, again, I think are very sort of, at least for me, in line with intuition. If there's a video as well as audio, you're going to have more recall. But there's data to support that. Okay, so I'm going to close where I started, which is our mission here at YouTube is really about giving everyone a voice and showing them the world. As we think as an industry about where podcasting is going at the heart of everything that we do, whether it be, A/B testing in studio or whether it be the living room or, the ability to make clips and shorts or, a search and discovery algorithm change that we're going to make. It really all comes back to this, which is how do we connect creators and audiences on a platform in a way that is like easy and straightforward for them. And so really excited. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for the time. And yeah, there's a number of us who will be around. We'll be around all weekend. I am, again, thank you.